Well, as most of us know, the tech market is pretty rough right now. So today we're going to be discussing what we're doing about it. Welcome everyone to episode 2 of Coding Imposters, where we talk about dealing with imposter syndrome in the coding world, trying to break into the industry as recent bootcamp grads. But whether you're a grad of a program or whatever, or you're just self-teaching, you're welcome to learn, hear our experiences as we journey into the coding world, trying to make it. We'll see. I feel like last episode, hopefully we didn't turn off too many people with our negativity. They're like, oh, these guys are so pessimistic and sad. I don't know. Hopefully this week will bring a little more positivity in what we're like planning to do about it. But I don't know, last week was like an interesting balance of trying to talk about how it really felt without being like so negative and depressing. So I don't know, that's how I felt about it. But Skylar, my co-host here, what did you think? What was your takeaway, I guess, from episode 1? If you had one.
Yeah, of course it's sad, but it's also real, you know? Like, you can't be in the job world and try and hunt for something and it be like all dandelions and roses. Like every application that I send in, I get a heartfelt response and a for sure interview. Like that's not reality, you know?
Sounds nice though.
It does sound nice, but that's just not the way the world works.
That's episode 2. Look at this week. We've had success after success after success.
Our first episode was a success, and now every job is
yeah. We haven't even posted episode 1, but somehow people are just picked it up and they love it and they want us to hire us.
I don't get it. It's like how it's when Google can track your searches and then gives you ads. It's the same thing. Riverside is just tracking what we're saying and then sending it to potential employers. That's how it works now.
Interesting theory. Well, hopefully we didn't scare anyone off with some of the negativity.
Well, they're here.
Like today, once we get to the actual like meat of the topic. Right now, we're just in the potatoes. We're going to talk about what we're actually doing to deal with the rough job market and the imposter syndrome. But I did like how episode 1, even though maybe it came off more pessimistic or negative, or I don't know, maybe people didn't feel that way. Maybe, I think I said maybe one positive thing in there or something like that. Maybe people didn't feel that. But, I wanted episode 1 to really capture that moment of like, okay, we just graduated. We feel so unequipped. We feel so like this is just a daunting task, and it is rough facing all these rejections and like seeing all these things. So hopefully it captured that without being, I don't know, too negative. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's great if it's too negative. I don't know.
Isn't that like the world now? It's like what is it? Dark humor? Dark humor and pessimism.
Well, the irony is we have imposter syndrome about our podcast on imposter syndrome.
Oh, so we are just we're just living in it now.
Oh man. All right. Well, every episode I think would be fun. Just take a few minutes here and there, talk about what we're doing this week. Obviously, because we're recording a little bit earlier this week, just based on schedules that we have, it's only been like 5 days, but it would still be fun, I think, each episode, especially as we bring on guests, to have just us two chat for a little bit. So anything you did this week that was noteworthy, either towards coding, job applications, anything, or were you just kind of 5 days, nothing's happened since then?
No, nothing's happened. My anniversary was this past weekend, so I was MIA
Cheers,
from the
baby.
world. Hey.
You got your drink. You got your water.
I got water.
Sponsored by water.
Sponsored by Costco and killing turtles.
Killing turtles. Ouch.
Oh no, those are straws. What do bottled water?
Everything. It just destroys the earth. I don't know.
I'm sorry. Hey,
that's the other podcast that we're gonna have. We'd be so good at climate change.
Oh geez, don't even.
Oh man. Well, for me this week, my wife finally started going back to work, so that was today. So I'm finally back into a normal rhythm. So there wasn't a ton last week because it was like the last week of summer break before you go back to work. So it was like, let's try to savor it, even though I don't know. It's still like a weird transition after summer break. Like when you're at the end of it, you think you'd be like, yeah, let's do all the like the fun like last summer things, but like you're kind of just like anxious about the schedule to change, and you're like, I don't really want to do anything, even though it's like our last couple of days of
Totally.
summer. So I am working on a website for the last game that I used to stream that I got popular from my content job, Splinterlands. I'm working on like a tournament website, so they have an API of like all the data that I'm trying to like. They have daily tournaments essentially, but there's no like way to track like, oh, over a season or over a month or over a year, like who is the best player. So I'm trying to create a system that takes their tournament data and assigns like results and points to each player that can be tracked over a period of time, and like create a championship or something like that. So that's like one of the main things I'm working on right now, because I think that would be a site that's actually used if I deploy it, which that's mostly my goal right now, is to actually make something that's used, since I don't have anything that's used right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the. I mean, who knows? Maybe someone's listening and they're like, "Oh, I have 3 projects that I've already deployed," and they're like just rolling in perfection of projects, and you and I are over here with like 2 or 3 projects that are like halfway done, maybe.
Well, I don't think so. Like anyone that's like, especially if someone's gone through boot camp, right? Like, it's so fast paced, which in a way I appreciate in some ways, because you graduate early, you get to move on, blah blah blah. But it's so fast paced that you're moving from assignment to assignment to assignment. Like even the ending like projects are like, you get 2 weeks maybe for yourself, 2 weeks for your group. So it's not like you have it's not like you graduate with a fully deployed project for the most part that is like a million features and everyone wants to use, because it's mostly just the goal is, hey, create an MVP that you can continue to work on after you graduate.
Yeah, totally.
So unless you're a superstar, I don't think many people graduated with like, look at all these live deployed projects that I have.
I think I've seen 2 people with deployed projects, but they were like they looked good, but they clearly had an idea from the very beginning of boot camp, and that's all they've been doing.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, most people, I don't think, have a clear idea of what they want until like halfway through, or when they switch languages, they're like, oh, I hate this language, I like this one. Because that was the case for me. I wanted to wait until I started a different language before I went crazy on one project.
Right.
So I knew which one I wanted to kind of like dial in.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, even now at post-graduation, I feel like I'm experiencing that a little bit now, trying to learn React and Mern, because I only did the Python stack. And I think the more I do it, I'm like, I'm still applying for front-end jobs. So I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm going to be the best front-end guy. Like, I don't know. The way I describe it to people is, if you give me a look that you want, I can figure out ways to like copy ideas and make it look good. But I'm not going to sit there and like be the UX, UI guy, design guy that like makes it look brilliant from like scratch and introduces new ideas. I'm the guy that can tell you what looks bad, but like not necessarily the guy that's like going to create this amazing new brilliant thing that looks good, if that makes sense.
So are you saying that you have imposter syndrome with front end work?
I don't know if it's a little bit like it's imposter syndrome, but also like that is the weird thing. It's like, okay, I know it's not my strong suit, but I also look at jobs that I'm applying to and I look at their website. I'm like, your website looks okay, but it also kind of looks like crap. Like, could I make this look better? Like, yes, but would I know how to make this look better? I don't know. You know?
It's like the uncanny valley of good websites.
Right.
You know, you're like, this looks bad, but I don't know if I can make it better, or there's something off with it.
It's not even necessarily bad. It's just like, oh yeah, I can see that style was probably like in like 10, 15 years ago, you know, like
sure.
And yeah, maybe just needs some modernization, but also maybe the people that are viewing the website, they're old enough to not know it's not modern. You know, I don't know.
So give me an example of a website that you find inspiration from, and then a website that you're like, man, this is trash. Every time I see it, I just want it gone.
I don't know about trash. That's a hard one to think of. There's probably places I've applied that I don't want to mention just in case. But there was a Web3 gaming website that I was like one of our biggest competitors, and it was actually I think ex CEO or ex owner of Twitch that
Oh,
was like the face of this company. I don't think he started this company. I think he left Twitch to run this company or something like that. It's Fractal. I think their domain is .is. But it's kind of this cool, like I love the sidebar navigation, like when you go in and out of it, it like resizes the screen. There's lots of
wait,
video
I'm
and
gonna
media going on.
I'm gonna
Versus
load
like a
up.
lot of the sites, I guess I won't shout out a bad one, but a lot of the sites I see is just like a ton of text and like just like basic kind of like bootstrap looking buttons and such, and it's like, you just kind of get that feeling of like this is overwhelming to look at, and I know like what's the
Yeah.
average web page? I think it's like when someone clicks on a web page, you have like 5 seconds to grab their attention, right? Or it's something ridiculously short.
Well, isn't that the same with like resumes and stuff? And I'm looking at
Right.
fractal.is right now. I decided to look it up.
Oh, that's funny because they actually just changed it. Now that
Yeah, I
I
was gonna
reloaded
say
the site.
your sidebar isn't there, but they are using React or some form like maybe Vue. I still don't know how to test it, but in Chrome you can see components and profiler.
There's
and
a Chrome extension called What Runs, I think is what it's called, that
Oh,
can kind of estimate what languages and stuff it's using, but I don't have it on this computer. I think I just have it on my laptop.
got it.
Anyways, I liked their site. It still looks good. I like
It still
kind of
looks
what they
good,
had
yeah.
before. It was a little bit more responsive, but anyways, anything that what would your answer be to that?
So my favorite website that I love is shit.com. It's
Oh my
SC
gosh, you guys.
No, it's SCHIIT. It's an audio company.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Yeah.
They make DACs and amps and stuff for headphones and speakers, but
SCHI? No.
SCHIIT.
IIT. I was gonna say, is it
Yeah.
just gonna be poop? I'm like, there's
No.
Okay.
It's so
Okay. It's real. It's a real site, guys. In case you're looking it up afterwards.
so the design is a brutalist design. Very basic. Like they use all their drop downs and stuff are just like the basic HTML. When you say whatever, like LI or whatever it is, then it just pops up with that. Super simple. But what I love about it is its starkness to everything else out in the space, right? It is, you won't find that literally anywhere else for any like company that sells any product. It's always going to be really froofy with rounded corners and a
Right.
big huge search bar in the top and a big nice nav bar, and it's all going to be nice and bright colors or dark and like more of that pastel kind of thing. But I think Shit Audio does a I love the name. It's so good.
you can't not say it loud.
They do a great job at capturing the remember part of your brain. I was trying to fix
grabbing,
that as
grabbing
I was,
your attention and
and having you remember it. I think that's really cool. The other website that I think does a really good job is IGN.com. They just changed to a full React.
That's a good one.
I think it's really smooth. It works great. The sidebar navigation's awesome. It's a little repetitive, but they have a lot of content that they have to kind of sift through, and they maybe a little bit overloaded with ads, but other than that, I think it's a pretty nice looking website.
Yeah. Well, other than that, I've just applied to a couple jobs this week. Nothing crazy, but mostly what I'm seeing is front end jobs. So hopefully, they don't listen to this podcast and listen to me say that. But yeah, I agree. I like your kind of picks there. I think what's definitely in is like minimalistic in a way, like
Totally.
to have some kind of animations or pictures or something to grab your attention, but like overall, like that's the focus with maybe like a couple of grabby text things versus like all the old school things I see. I don't know why it's always, I swear, like a 4-screen color, a navy, and some kind of like darker orange. I don't know why it's those 3 colors, but I swear I see that all the time.
Let's see. Let's find a random website. Let's do this. Maybe we
Oh,
can share
boy.
the screen. What would be a good website
Oh, jeez.
to just look up randomly? Like, give me a random topic and I'll Google it and find a website.
Pets. I don't
Pets.
know.
Okay. Oh, that brought me to
Oh,
PetSmart.
man.
It is auto-populated. Okay, let's see.
They're red and blue, at least,
They're red and blue, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know,
Let's see.
man. Maybe I'll stick to backing. I actually bought a MySQL book this week because I'm like, I know how many people hate SQL, and I'm like, that was actually one of the things that didn't annoy me in boot
Oh,
camp. So I'm like,
really?
maybe there's an in there because no one else wants to do this stuff.
Totally. Dude, it bothered me until it clicked. There was a weird learning curve there, and then after that it was like it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't love it. I love NoSQL. It would make way more sense.
Yeah, it's okay until I got the book and realized, oh, we actually don't know that much SQL. like we do enough, but like there's some things in the book there's like advanced like triggers and other like things that you can set up with it. I'm like, oh, okay, shoot, there's a lot to do here.
Yeah, no, I don't even. Nope, I'm okay.
All right, well, are you ready for this week's quiz question? I'm only giving you one this week, so it shouldn't be as bad.
I need to make one for you because I totally forgot.
No,
that you did
I'm
that.
the quiz guy. I get to make you look like a fool.
Oh, okay,
And
yeah. So I see why you brought me on for this podcast.
Yeah.
I need employers to see that I'm the smartest one in the room.
See, that's what I'm saying, though. So I said last week, the person that comes up with the quiz question and finds it, the other person looks like a fool, and the person asking the question sounds smart. So,
okay.
I think you asked this last week, actually. So this is a 90,000 person estimated Stack Overflow survey. The most loved programming languages. Let's see if you can name the top three.
Python.
Python is number 2.
Oh, okay.
At a 73.1% rate. I don't know what that means. 73% people like it, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. Let's see. Are we doing back-end languages or like a front-end language?
Programming languages. I don't think it includes frameworks.
Okay,
maybe like
is
React
JavaScript on there?
JavaScript is not top 3.
Not top 3. Okay, HTML.
That's not a programming language. Get out of here.
Oh, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry. What? PHP?
PHP is not on there. Not top 3 at least.
C# or C++?
Oh my gosh, no.
I'm like, I don't even know. All right, smart man, smartest man in the room.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. Number 3 is close to JavaScript, but it is not JavaScript.
It's TypeScript?
It is TypeScript. I was shocked.
Okay.
TypeScript is 73%. It's actually tied with Python.
Interesting.
So now you're just missing number 1.
And it's not a framework.
I don't think you're gonna get it.
I'm never gonna get this. Did I learn it in boot camp?
No.
Okay, I have no idea then.
Okay. I'll give you a hint. It's 4 letters.
Java?
It's also a video game.
Java?
No.
It's a video game? What?
It's a video game where you go like raid other people's bases and stuff. It's like known as one of the most like trolly video games because people just like destroy your stuff all the time.
Dude, I don't.
Okay.
I don't
the most loved programming language is Rust. Rust. At 83.5%. I don't know why.
I've never even heard of Rust.
You've never? Oh, really? I've at least heard of it. I don't really know what to compare it to, but it's apparently the number 1 most loved programming language. I don't know why.
Okay.
So
I've never played Rust, so I don't. There was nothing in my brain there.
Sorry.
That's okay.
JavaScript, by the way, in case you're wondering, was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th.
Ouch.
So I guess people love TypeScript but hate JavaScript, which is ironic.
Dude, I don't know
why.
I don't know.
They did okay. To be fair, they did include HTML and CSS as a pairing on this list, and that was 14th.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, at least
I'm the dumb one now.
There you go. You laughed at me. I mean, it's still a language, right?
True. I mean, I think it's one of those like I see TikTok comments on it all the time, like those people who are like the programming police on social media, and they're like, "Oh, I know more than you," and so like there'll be like memes about how like HTML and CSS is like not a language or whatever. I don't know. I don't know why people care so much about like policing new programmers and stupid stuff like that.
They just gotta. They have imposter syndrome, and they have to bring other people down.
Exactly.
This podcast is for you, you policer.
Exactly.
If you've ever commented on a post in a mean, negative way, you need to keep listening because you're a dick. Or go away.
It's really your own insecurities that you need
really...
to take a look at in the mirror.
Yeah. Exactly. Michael Jackson has a song for you.
Oh my gosh. Yikes. Even my dogs are yelling at that one. Oh gosh. Alright, well let's jump into the meat of the episode. Since last week we talked a lot about like how we're feeling, how it's rough, like what is it like jumping out of a boot camp, trying to jump into the real world, how tough it is. I think today's topic is positive, but also in the sense of like still set in reality. Like the job market is rough. Everyone we've talked to has said that, whether that's networking, other classmates. I have a past classmate that was a tech recruiter that's also doing the coding bootcamp, which I thought was cool. Maybe we should have her on later. She was talking about it. Our career services was talking about it. Like, this is my career service. I think I mentioned this in the last episode, maybe not. He said March was literally, in the 7 years he's worked there, the worst he's ever seen. Like, no student contacted him during March at all saying that they got a job. And so he said it's starting to pick back up a little bit. But that's what we're in. That's where we're coming from. Maybe you're listening to this podcast 2-3 years later, and it's easy. I sure hope. Like, man, in 2-3 years, it's like back to, like pre-COVID, like early COVID times where tech companies are hiring like crazy, and like you can just get a job as soon as you get a boot camp. Walk in saying like, "Hey, I threw in 3 lines of code," and they're like, "Cool, you're hired. We need people." Like, maybe it's that way, but right now, it's rough. So what are we doing about it? How are we dealing with our imposter syndrome in that? And I'll kick it to you because we already talked a little bit before earlier today. I thought you had an interesting conversation with your little network connection. So maybe start the conversation by telling us what your call was like this week.
Yeah, so I talked to a guy who's been in tech since he's like 14. I don't actually know how old he is, so it's been a while, I guess.
And does he still have imposter syndrome? Does it go away?
Does it go? You know what? I remember asking him that, and I don't remember his answer.
Oh, now you're gonna have to text him.
Because his response when I asked, "How do you deal with imposter syndrome?" was way better. So
okay, that's fair.
I forgot, but he basically was saying, like, imposter syndrome is looking at your person as a binary, like you are just one flat thing, right? Where in reality, you're 3-dimensional. You have multiple facets. So imposter syndrome isn't necessarily something that has to do with a whole sub-genre of your personhood, i.e. in this case, coding, right? It's a subset of coding. So he was saying, in the moment, like when you are feeling imposter syndrome, try and figure out where that's stemming from, because it might not be in HTML or CSS or JavaScript, right? You could be really, really good at that, but it could be in something else. It could be in Bootstrap or Tailwind or something if you're talking about a CSS framework, and then that could be causing it so you go, okay, it's not my insecurities as a full stack developer, but it's mostly like I just feel like I'm lacking in this one subset, and if I was better, then I could work up to there. And I think that's kind of where we go back to, I believe, what we talked about last week is it's okay to understand that you're just a baby, right? Like, I think that's kind of where we ended it almost.
Yeah, we said rolling on one side, but not being able to flip around the other side.
Exactly, and that's okay with where we're at. And if you just graduated a boot camp, then that's okay too. Like, not being proficient in 1, 2, 5, 10 different languages, but being like competent in them, you're the perfect spot. You're exactly where you need to be.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it's a great conversation, a smart guy, and maybe we'll get him on the podcast in a few
Yeah, we'll
episodes
see.
here or there or something like that. We'll see. I'm
That'd be
sure he's
awesome.
busy, but I think since you texted me that little snippet of what he was saying, I kind of thought back through my things, and we won't go too much into detail, but that's one of the things when I was talking to my counselor like a year and a half ago as I was transitioning jobs. He has this concept, I guess not his, but like in counseling theory, one of the counseling theories is like you have like your pain cycle, like your kind of like loop that you go through that like makes you feel anxious or depressed or whatever, and then like you have a peace cycle. And one of the things that he and I discovered, for me at least, talking through, is like when I don't feel good enough, when I don't feel like I'm enough, that's when I get into that like more of the pain loop. And so my responses to that is, okay, I retreat, or I try to instead retreat. I try to overperform by pretending I know everything, or like just faking it, right? And not really being myself. So there's like different ways that I respond to that, instead of, okay, stopping in the moment and saying like, okay, let's go into the peace cycle and think about, okay, I actually have value because of these things, and I can be confident because of these things. And I think it relates a lot to what he was saying, because coming out of the boot camp, that definitely put me in that cycle of, oh, I am not good enough. I'm not, X, Y, Z. And so that either one can lead me to some of the days where I'm like, I just don't want to touch this. I don't want to do anything. I want to dissociate. I want to play video games. I just don't want to have to deal with finding a job and not face that, right?
Yeah.
Or two, I'm so anxious, filled with so much anxious energy that I'm like, I gotta study everything, and I gotta spend like 14 hours a day like in algorithms and applying, and and like reading this MySQL book or whatever it is, to like overcompensate, instead of just being like, okay, here's where I am now, here's where like I can grow, and like digging into those areas that you're saying of imposter syndrome, which I think I have a few, but I'm curious to like what were yours as you thought about that? Has there been any revelation of like, these are the areas I feel most imposter syndrome in?
It's a good question. He asked me, and I've been dealing with so much anxiety with it, I kind of blocked it.
There you go. That's the response, baby. Disassociate. Let's go.
Yeah, and it's like this kind of mindset of I would say I'm not good enough to be hired. I think that's probably where I'm at in my imposter. Like I feel like a fraud trying to get a job because I don't know enough.
Right.
And that's been where that's kind of where I've been at, of I don't want to apply to jobs because like I'm not worthy enough for them to even consider me or look at my application. Like my application is so ridiculous and so lame that there's no or my resume, excuse me, but
yeah,
it's so
especially
bad
right now, right?
Yeah,
when it's like basically what we've been told is a lot of the mid-level people have been laid off, so they're even taking entry-level jobs. That's like most applications, like you need 3 to 5+ years of experience, all these blah 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 things.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. So it's like sitting there and like, I mean, talking with you earlier, and we've been trying to devise a way to get real world experience without getting hired by a company.
Right.
Of just like to at least have something to go for and go after rather than throw 1,000 applications at the wall.
Yeah. I'm sick of applications.
It's exhausting, and it's even more tiring when you find a job that you would be like, I would love this job, but you've been throwing 50 other applications out that day, and you're like, this is just gonna be the exact same story, but I'm actually interested in this one when I wasn't interested in the 50 that I've been throwing.
Right.
And so then you're kind of back in that cycle of just what am I doing right now?
Right. Yeah. I think it's such an interesting idea to, instead of say like I have imposter syndrome as a whole to this, and like focus in on like, okay, what is making me feel that imposter syndrome. And for me, one of the things I realized, I'm sure there's many, but one of the ones is like definitely technical interviews. Like I feel at a loss. Like most of the boot camp, we're going through assignment. We're not focused on the computer science, like this big O notation. Like I kind of like have read some things. I've watched, shout out to like Harvard CS50 YouTube videos. I've watched a couple of those and need to finish that series. But like you asked me to write an algorithm and then like make it faster or like save more space, and I'll be like, I don't know. I know how to solve this with like a for loop or a nested for loop, but like after that, I don't know, man. Like ask ChatGPT or Google
totally.
it, you know. And so
Totally.
that's definitely some insecurity for me, where I now committed to each day, which I don't know. We'll see how this goes. It'll be one day where I'm now live streaming. There's a Leak Code like daily planner that gives you like 170 from like easy to hard. And if you don't know what Leak Code is, it's an algorithm challenge website. You may have heard of others, Hacker Rank, Code Wars, or whatever. If you're listening, if not, go check them out. But like this, I was live streaming the second one today, and it was supposed to be. It's marked easy, and it took me an hour and a half with like a buddy jumping on call, like other people like in chat. Not there was that many people in chat. There's like maybe 3 or 4 throughout the day. And I was like, holy cow. Like, and you know, some of these algorithms are overkill. This is like probably on track for like, you know, if you're hiring to Google or, you know, any of the FANG, you know, Facebook, Apple, whatever companies, which I'm not really trying to do anyway, so I don't care. But like, just the fact that I'm like, man, I'm struggling with the easy problem. And like, I did solve the first problem, but like, it shows you like other ways to solve it with better O notation. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I solved it in probably like the worst way, so I solved it, and now I need to go back through and like actually read. So it's just interesting, like the more you face it, the more insecurity you start to feel, at least in my case there.
Yep.
But at the same time, at least I'm growing and learning, and I can look back and say like, it's just a matter of like looking forward gives you that anxiousness of like, this is how much I don't know, versus looking back and saying, okay, this is how much I've learned since last week. This is how much I learned since last month, right?
Yeah,
it's just that it's so hard to do that, though.
Well, and that's kind of what we talked about last week of this. The more you don't know, the more you feel like you know. The more you know, the more you feel like you don't know, right? So like as you progress in knowledge, you're gonna progress in insecurity and imposter syndrome, because you realize, like, I am trying to swim across an ocean when I thought it was a pond, you know?
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I think too, realizing like your question earlier of like, you know, is the front end work just imposter syndrome, or is it, you know, like a legit like, and I think that's the hard part of sorting through, okay, what is just insecurity and imposter syndrome, and what is, okay, maybe that isn't my skill set, isn't my strength. So for me, like, maybe I should start to focus more on Python and databases or machine learning, or I don't know, data analyst or whatever, because maybe I do have more of a innate skill towards that, or understanding, I don't know, you know. And it's like, how do you sort through that to narrow down to focus on, okay, here are the things I can get good at and not have imposter syndrome in.
Yeah, totally. I'm excited for like in a couple years when we look back at this like first couple of episodes.
Yeah, it's all recorded, baby. We can't get around to know.
But like, and see where we're at, right? Like, like maybe we have a job and we're still doing the podcast because I don't know, we enjoy doing this or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and it's making us millions of dollars. And we just work for fun. Really, it's the reverse. Yeah, I don't know.
No, but it's true. Like it's gonna be fun to see like we're struggling and now we're not, and then we can share that story of success rather than join us on this journey of discovering. And for those people who are gonna stay with us, that's really awesome. And then for those who are going to jump on, it's awesome too, because they can see, hey, I'm not alone, and this imposter syndrome thing isn't abnormal.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in getting in some guests here soon that have been here in the industry for a couple of years, and to hear their stories, because I'm assuming there's in some ways going to be similar. I mean, sure, there's that odd case or whatever, like, yeah, you know, I started programming Minecraft mods at 10 years old, and like, you know, I'm applying for Google as soon as I got out of high school. You know, I'm sure there's stories out there, but
Yep.
For the most part, that's that's gonna be like what the 1% of people,
Yeah, totally. I don't
maybe.
think, but those are the stories you hear, right?
And that's what's on social media and the cool inspirational people that get lots of views or whatever.
The inspirational people, they're all like, I'm amazing. If you sign up for my masterclass or not masterclass, what do they call it? My
Masterclass, Udemy, there's
Udemy workshop, you just
Patreon. There's lots of
Patreon, and they're like, I will show you in the 10 steps that you could get a job, your dream job, in 5 weeks, and you're like, oh, okay, you're crazy.
Crazy indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk a little bit because we've been talking in this week about a call that I had from just a random LinkedIn connection. I think that is one of the pieces of advice that I talked about last week, just very briefly, of networking. That's something the career services do. And I'm surprised, not everyone responds on LinkedIn, but the people that do, I'm surprised that, like, people who are, pretty high up in the industry, not, like, crazy high, but, like, they've arrived, they're doing well. Like, how willing they are to help out and to just respond and to give advice. And one of the advice that he was saying, and maybe we'll get him on the podcast too, I don't know, was,
let's do it.
What we did after boot camp is we got a couple of guys together. We started our own company. We started building things that people were actually using, started an LLC. And he's like, literally after a year, even though it was for our own company, the fact that these guys had real world experience for the company they started, like, they were getting calls and interviews from everyone. Like, everyone's trying to poach them a year later. And so I just wanted to touch on that and talk about, like, some of the ideas and plans that we've had, because I think it's easy to say, okay, the job market sucks, I'm going to apply whatever, it's not going to work out, versus, okay, what initiative and what things can we do? We can't control the job market. We can't control the economy. It's rough out there in a lot of industries, not just programming. So what can we do rather than just, like, I guess, cry and moan about it, So, yeah, I don't know, like, what things that have we talked about to you that has been interesting to you?
Oh, I think the idea we talked about doing our own LLC, making a company, and then making projects that are interesting to us under that company that are useful and can be used in the real world. Pretty much copying what that LinkedIn connection did, and I think that's kind of the smartest way. And I made fun of it, like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes ago, of like we're making real world experience with quotes, right? Like, we're not hired, we're not making money, but we're our own company. Maybe. Well, okay, fair enough.
Maybe that's the hope, at least.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, for right now, like, we were talking about making an API for a Web3 game database, but, like, yeah, just various things like that. I think trying to make yourself seem as real world experience as possible by actually doing real world experience, but not by doing it through the guise of a employership.
Right. And I think it's so easy to get locked into that, especially because depending on where you're graduating from, most places just in America in general are going to talk about getting a job. Like, it's not like I grew up in a family that was very business focused, so my dad talked about it a lot. But it's not really an option that people talk about or point you to. And so it's so easy to get locked in, well, I'm just screwed because I can't get a job. So, like, that's it. Like, that's for me. Or I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to go back to my old industry and figure out work, versus, like, okay, if we actually start making this company, if we start looking for freelance, we're looking at grants, we're looking at asking old contacts, old friends. It's like, if we can get anything on the board, one, that's huge for our resume. Two, even if it's like, hey, we're making just the bare minimum to cover some bills, right? Luckily for us, our wives work, so that helps. So maybe not everyone's in that situation, but even if it's just minimal bills where we can pay off that stuff and then get to work full time in these projects.
Yep.
Like, how much better are we going to get at programming and coding versus, well, I have this cool solo project that I've been working on for 6 months, it's not deployed. No one uses it yet. I mean, no
Yep.
shame if that's you, but like, I don't think that's what employers are looking for, you know?
Yeah, and that's most people. Like most people have just their personal projects. And you can totally make a portfolio website and post, your various things so that people might be able to look at them, or you're streaming or you're sending it to recruiters or whatever.
Yeah,
You know,
it's not a
but
bad thing to have.
no, not at all. And don't want to shove you down because you don't have it, because I only have a couple.
I mean, that's where we're at
projects.
right now.
Yeah, totally. No, that's I mean, we're just trying to figure out what the best step is to move forward, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think what's exciting about it is if we actually have a deployed project that's being used, whether we got paid for it or maybe not, maybe it's just like, hey, we have something that we've built to show that people want to use the thing that we built. What I've thought about is how big that is in terms of the real world experience of actually deploying a project, having to maintain a project, looking for bugs, not our own bugs that we catch, but other people that catch our bugs, how that works. Thinking through like, okay, we've built our project in this way, and now we're seeing real data of people using it. How much database is that taking? How much are we being charged for server space? Things like that, where yes, it's deployed as a personal project, but no one cares about it. So it's on sitting on AWS, like for my resume, but I'm not like, no, like maybe robots are hitting it because it does get like some traction, right? Or maybe people are clicking from a resume. I don't probably think that many, but like I don't have to ever think about it and go back and like, oh, maybe I should save space here. Maybe I should change the app in this way. Versus if we have something that people are using, I feel like that's where that real world experience comes in that you don't get from just a solo project or an assignment from bootcamp.
Yeah, totally.
So that's what I'm excited about. I think it's also helped me just to find, I don't know about for you, but for me it's helped bring more motivation of like, okay, I'm not just stuck hitting my head against the wall, as you said, applying 100 places. Like, let's look for different routes.
Yep. No, that's totally right. Like, it's important to always try and get excited about certain things. Otherwise, you will burn yourself out, and you will crash and burn. You know, like that's just the way it goes, and it's important to try and always keep your eye on the ball and to motivate yourself and move forward. It's like, what do they say? Like, you always do a small task and reward yourself a little bit. You do a large task, you reward yourself a lot. That same idea. It's like, I don't know what someone's motivation would be, but it's like, hey, if you finish this project or this idea that you have, then go out and go to a nice dinner, or go buy that video game you've been wanting to buy, or
Baldur's Gate 3, baby.
oh,
I still haven't bought it. I gotta get it. I gotta get some kind of money first before I can justify.
I know it's like $70 or something too.
Yeah, it's not even. Yeah, it's not crazy.
But yeah, I don't. I think that's just kind of what my train of thought's totally crumbling into the dirt.
Yeah.
But
No, I like your
I was thinking about video
crumbles.
games.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking about Baldur's Gate now.
I
Dang
was
it.
like, ah, dang it.
I need to go buy it.
Cool. Larian Studios.
I think it's an interesting way to think through of like almost flipping. Oh my gosh, flipping the script. Flipping. I like that actually. Flipping.
Yeah, there you
go. Like, in a sense of, we're throwing all these resumes, we're throwing all these applications, and it's like, hey, look at me. Oh, no one cares to look at me. And now we're trying to flip the script in a sense of, okay, look at the things that we're building and come to us, like, connect through us on the podcast. Maybe we'll make a networking connection there. Or, maybe our project, someone actually is using the project and they're like, hey, who are these guys that built it? Let's connect. And so it's this reversal of like, okay, instead of like, oh, no one's looking at me, just like, okay, let's put a body of actual work out there.
Yep.
And not that I expect to get like noticed and like messages from Google. I don't even want that, as I've said, but you only need one connection. You only need one person to say yes. And who knows, we'll keep track of this journey as we podcast. Maybe, as you said, like, we just start a business, and like this is like what we do. We have freelance work, and we hire someone else on to do other stuff. I don't know, like who knows where it'll go.
We never actually get a coding job, but for some
Yeah.
reason the podcast takes off.
Yeah, well, yeah, but not even just the podcast. Like, what if we actually do get enough freelance grant? Like, you know, like I'm interested to see. I think, and then especially in the next couple of weeks as we start figuring out the details, you know, launch a site, all those things. We'll probably need to do some legwork. But I'm interested once we actually start contacting some of our friends, our old work contacts, things like that. Like I have a bunch of Web3 game contacts. Like if I mentioned to them, like, do you need contract work, stuff like that. I'm curious, like maybe there is a lot out there that just like no one's posting about, but things need to get done, and how much, you know,
Totally.
who knows? Like maybe it's nothing, but maybe it is something. Who knows?
Well, isn't it like 70% of the jobs out there that aren't posted online?
Oh yeah. It's
Like-
mostly all internal, or if it's not internal, someone from the internal team knows somebody, and that they're way more likely to get. Yeah, I don't remember the exact percentage. They went over it, but it's probably 70.
I don't know. I was just throwing a number out that sounded
That sounds right.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, and that's I don't know. That's where I'm like I don't want to give up on job applications, because I know it's like it's just who knows. Like there's people that like that have graduated the boot camp that I've talked to that like one of them just finally worked out. As we said, you only need one.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. As you said, it's demoralizing. It burns you out. Like if you're not careful, like I could see like if I just went down this path for like 3 months of like all I'm gonna do is a solo project, and all I'm gonna do is apply to places. Who knows? Maybe in 3 months I just say, screw it, I'm done with coding. It's not working out. I'm moving on.
Totally.
Like, I can see a world that happens.
Yeah, and I think it does happen, you know? And it's depressing. And here we are trying to make this episode.
This is the positive
better.
episode. Dang it. No, it's positive.
We're not
because
good at this.
We're not going down. No, we're saying we're not going down that road.
Oh, okay. Last episode we were. This episode
Yeah,
we're saying
we've
we're not.
changed it all around in 5 days.
We're
That's all it
doing pretty
takes.
good in 5 days.
It's all it takes, and you know that's really what I hope these episodes are, just an encouragement to think about it in new ways and to relate, because, I mean, all this motivation that we're getting, all these ideas that we've talked about in these 5 days, right, is like from your call with that guy, my call with someone randomly on LinkedIn, like connections that we've randomly made, have given us new life, new ideas, new things to try out, and maybe, you know, it doesn't work, maybe it does, but like at least we have something going forward.
Yeah, totally.
So that's all we can ask for, I guess, is we make a little bit of change in the world.
And don't be discouraged. You're not alone.
It feels so fake. I'm just one of those people that, like, anytime I say something encouraging, it just sounds so fake.
You are worth it. Like if someone says that to me, I'm like,
my
oh,
gosh.
thanks. I feel worth it.
We should build an app of positive affirmations where we just record our voices. And
Yeah, I don't know if anyone would ever listen to that.
Only as a joke. It'd be like kind of the dark humor that you're saying. Like, it's only people who are sarcastic like us and know how sarcastic it sounds.
We can make an app and charge 99 cents. And it's just like really like, you're worthy. You're important. Somebody loves you.
There we go. And it randomly goes off throughout the day.
Oh.
It just randomly like buzzes your phone and then says it out loud. So you have no control over it.
No control. There you go. That's our big $1 million idea right there.
There we go. We discovered it live on air.
Oh yeah, this is totally live.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting pretty late into the episode. We're going off the rails. Any last thoughts or things to leave this episode with, or is your brain now gone of all good sayings and ideas?
You're worth it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
No,
gosh.
I do think it's important. One of the bigger ideas of this podcast was to help other people know that they're not alone, right? Like, as cheesy as that sounds, that's kind of the backbone of the idea. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but
No, I mean I think that's what I'm excited about having guests, and we'll probably have one maybe for the next episode. It's just this is a common, relatable experience, and we talked last week of, especially in tech, like there's a lot of things that can make you feel like an imposter, you know?
Yeah. That's it. See you guys next week.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have someone on that has some really good wisdom and stuff to talk about. But, I think it was interesting to just talk through, like, okay, what are some other options than just applying for jobs, things that we're going to be testing. Obviously, we're going to give lots of updates on that. And then I think, too, just having that mindset of, like, okay, instead of taking the imposter syndrome, sitting down and be like, oh, I just suck. There's nothing I can do. Like, okay, instead of that, like, figure out what can you learn, what can you grow in, and have that perspective and mindset, which, again, I'm going to say this over and over in this podcast. It's easy to say. But when it comes to your mind and your brain and thinking, I'm not, my wife's a counselor, I'm not a counselor, but our brains don't function very logically. So it's easy to say. It's much harder to be like, yeah, I'm going to lock into this perspective and never have a negative thought or never have anxiety about the future. Of course, like we're going to have that every episode of this podcast.
Yep, totally.
All right. Well, Skylar, it's been fun. Thank you guys for tuning in for episode 2. Hopefully we'll have a guest lined up for episode 3. I think we're landing on Friday episodes so that you guys can listen in over the weekend or start your work week out fresh if you have a job, or like me, you just start your Monday morning breakfast and coffee looking for jobs and listening to us. I don't know. But feel free to follow along. All podcast platforms should be there. You can also maybe see some shorts on YouTube, TikTok, all that fun stuff. But Skylar, let's wrap it up.
All right. Oh, don't forget, share it if you liked it.
And like it if you shared it? No.
Like it and then share it. Like, comment, subscribe, or whatever it is.
That was always the worst part of my content career. Is like I can make great content, but then like promoting it and like doing the whole like, subscribe, and sign up for the bell. Like, oh my gosh.
Was that imposter syndrome though? We're getting off topic.
That wasn't imposter syndrome. That was, this is stupid. Like, if you like it, just like it. Why do I have to tell you? It's like, come on. Yeah. Anyways, like the podcast. This is episode 2. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.